The Emperor's bodyguards. The Adeptus Custodes are the gene-enhanced immortal warriors that serve the throne directly, and have done so since the Grand Unification Wars of Terror. They stand vigil over the Golden Throne and the ruined form of the Emperor sat atop it, and have recently broken their containment to the Imperial Palace, being commanded by their Captain General to venture out into the galaxy as a whole and bring the strength of the Emperor to those in need. The origins of the Custodes is long lost to the shadows of history, although it is known that they accompanied the Emperor early in his efforts to unify mankind. Those fragments of legend that have been discovered talk of trusted bodyguards and advisors to the Emperor, winning great victories in his name against monstrous beings. It is believed, however, that as the Emperor brought various techno-demagogues and scientist kings to kneel before him, he gained knowledge of gene forging and the manufacture of advanced war gear. Armed with this knowledge, the construction of such perfect warriors would have been a challenge for the Emperor in those early days, but the Adeptus Custodes exist to prove that he succeeded. Whilst it is unknown where these first Custodes originated from, new recruits into their ranks originate, for the most part, from the noble clans of Holy Terror. These inductees are taken at very young ages, any past their infancy, too old to survive the intense processes of the change. They are walked through the avenue of sacrifice, where crowds cheer as the Custodes-to-be are taken through the Ancestors' Gate and into the Imperial Palace. It has also been known for Custodes to encounter new recruits on their missions or travels, seeing something in the child that sets them out as a perfect candidate for joining their ranks. It's a bit like Anakin being picked up on Tatooine, but no Custode has yet to go full Darth Vader. However it is they come to begin their training, they all undergo the same intense processes. The Adeptus Custodes inductees are rebuilt at a genetic level, their baser drives rendered inert, and their core selves being driven now by aggression, fulfillment of duty, and goal acquisition. The entire process involves intricate gene craft and alchemy, each change made to the individual making subtle but absolute changes in their very being. Each Custodes requires a wide range of skills and talents in order to fully serve their purpose, as well as a mindset and intelligence capable of keeping up with the master of mankind. All of this and more is what's given by this long process. Hidden deep within the Imperial Palace, specialist chirurgeons and alchemists carry out this great work, obscured from any watching eyes. From any outside of the process, the candidate simply enters into the shut-off chambers and a custodian emerges. No organ implantation or surgical grafting is undertaken, with these changes being more complete and masterful than those who would become a Space Marine undergo. Following the plans laid down by the Emperor when he still commanded and oversaw this procedure, the medical scientists trust in his work, not needing to fully understand why the processes they enact work, trusting in their faith of the infallible Emperor. They splice, alter, and enhance as prescribed, creating warriors much tougher, faster, stronger, and with greater intelligence than their Astartes cousins. If it is to be said that the Astartes are the children of their Primarchs, it would not be too far to say that the members of the Adeptus Custodes are born of the Emperor himself. It's not just their bodies that are changed here, however, with their minds needing to be reconfigured to their new duties. A custodian must be totally loyal, remorseless, vigilant, and tireless. Such is this embedded into each custodian, that when their bodies aren't quite as spry as they used to be, the Custodes' form of retirement is to join the eyes of the Emperor. This secret order of once Custodes are scattered across the galaxy, watching for dangers and reporting concerns back to Holy Terror. In order to discipline their minds to this point, each inductee is mentally indoctrinated. Their psyches are rebuilt from the ground up, each brick reinforcing the lessons they must learn to build an imperial palace within their soul that guards them from the concerns of mortal men and stands strong to remind them of their duty to the throne and to he who dwells upon it. They undergo thousands of hours of psycho-conditioning, information being drilled into their minds at such an intense rate that some are driven mad. For those who can withstand the twisting and shaping of their grey matter, they not only gain a new sense of duty, but are a walking encyclopedia of mankind's knowledge base, having a keen grasp on diplomacy, interstellar geography and art, to name a few. Only by learning from history are we able to avoid repeating it, and the Emperor had no plans of allowing mankind to slip back into old night, and so he ensured his protectors would have the tools they need to ensure humanity's future. Finally, for those who survive every psychological and physical process involved with joining the ranks of the 10,000 golden warriors of the Emperor, they are bestowed a final gift. They are blessed, given protections from the dangers of the warp, and leaving them less vulnerable to the effects of the witch and the null alike. This sealing of their souls may protect them from the forces of chaos and the dangers of the warp, but it also cuts them off from one of mankind's greatest weapons, the Psyker. No custodian is capable of channeling the warp, leaving their grand powers out of the Custodes' armoury. It is a small price to pay, however, for the assurance that there remains no chink in the psychic defences of the Emperor's finest. These perfect warriors are then clad in the finest armour and armed with artificer equipment. Each suit of Auramite armour is unique to the custodian who wears it, with their many names inscribed within the interior of their master-crafted armour plates. This unique metal alloy is not only stronger than the Space Marine's ceramite armour, it also offers further protection against the etheric energies of the warp. The Emperor's own armour was created from the same substance, and it's this extra protection that saved what is left of him from burning up when he took to the Golden Throne 10,000 years ago. The suits also boast powerful refractor force field generators, as well as proximity sensors, making it near impossible to sneak up on a Custodes in full battle plate. With all of this effort going into first selecting, and then crafting and finally arming a Custodes, what is their function? Why is it worth going through all this time and work just to create one warrior? And why are there only 10,000s of these Custodes, rather than chapters and chapters of them, just like the Space Marines? Well, the answer to the latter question is an easier one. It just simply wouldn't be possible in the Imperium as it stands. In order to expand the numbers of the Custodes, corners would need to be cut and liberties stretched, as limited resources became more scarce and the knowledge diluted amongst more and more artificers. Think of the Astartes like a nice suit, but the Custodes like a tailored three-piece. They both do the job, but the latter is a lot nicer, even if it takes more time to construct. The other aspect of this is secrecy. The Custodes are mankind's trump card, their greatest weapons and defenders. If knowledge of their creation were to be dispersed beyond the Imperial Palace, the enemies of mankind would learn to either create their own twisted versions, or use this knowledge to discover weaknesses currently hidden from prying eyes. As to what these protected secrets bloom into, it is a Custodes' primary duty to protect the Emperor of mankind, even now as he sits motionless upon the Golden Throne. Within their rank, there are many shield hosts and sub-factions, each with their own specific roles to play to this greater end. We'll cover these in the detail they deserve in another video on the channel soon, but for now, I'll talk about one of these shield hosts, the Shadow Keepers, who watch over the Vaults of Terror. Within the vaults lie locked away secrets, imprisoned by the Emperor himself. Until recently, those of this shield host remained entirely upon Terra, guarding their rune-locked vaults with a ruthless and untrusting mentality. With the opening of the Great Rift, however, a number of their hosts have quested out into the stars, seeking to track down and return the contents of those vaults that mysteriously now stand empty, their contents disappearing as the galaxy was torn in two. The Adeptus Custodes are one of the most elite fighting forces in the galaxy, with each individual member of the 10,000 being to a Space Marine what an Astartes is to a mortal man. They are not a conquering force, their numbers far too few to stretch across an entire galaxy. They are instead a surgical tool, a knife to cut out the growing threat to the throne, and a shield to stand guard over their gene father. Where Custodes arrive, the enemies of the Imperium come to learn the true strength of mankind. The Custodes are only one half of the talons of the Emperor, and will cover the Sisters of Silence, their Null Maiden battle allies, along with some more detail on the Custodes' greatest battles and heroes in a future video. If you've enjoyed our dive into the creation of a Custodes, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It really helps us to continue what we're doing. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.